All right, we're on.
Hello.
I'm Adam. I'm here with my guest.
I am Caleb Kuhlmeier.
All right, we're not doing the anonymous thing. All right, so first we're going to talk about David Grush, the whistleblower, the high-ranking intel guy, says aliens are real, basically.
Yeah.
And I had Caleb do a little bit of a deep dive on certain subjects, and what do you think?
Personally, I don't feed into too much alien folklore or anything like that.
Sure.
But it was pretty interesting kind of looking into some of the information that guy had basically decided to let to public knowledge. I didn't know the guy was a Air Force officer. And I think he was for about 14 years.
Yeah, it was something like that. Got really high ranking, big intel guy. I mean, he's credible. He's definitely a credible source, but
Yeah.
even your most credible guys sometimes go off their
Yeah.
rockers. But
Yeah, they see something that they're not classified to see, and they take it a little too far because they just are a little too underinformed, I guess.
sure.
And that could possibly be what's going on with this guy, but I don't know. It was definitely interesting reading up on him.
Yeah, he's a pretty hot topic right now. Something a lot of people are taking interest in.
Especially nowadays with, I think, end of 2023, there was people saying that aliens were landing outside their houses and shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe a lot of that stuff. And then, there's the Miami incident that happened recently.
I actually didn't hear too much on that.
Really? So basically, it's one of the most off the wall ones. So there was a shopping mall, and I guess a big fight broke out. A bunch of people started jumping people. People started getting into huge crowd fights. And there's a huge police presence. And then the story is someone was in front of one of those big spotlights that shines on the building. And the way that their shadow hit the building made it look like there's like a 10-foot alien.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone saw it, and that's all they saw, and they just blew it completely out of proportion. That's what the cops are saying. That's kind of what I'm siding with.
I'm kind of going to go with that side of it. And there's several reasons why. Clearly they don't know how shadows work.
Yeah, exactly.
But
in a spotlight pointing straight up,
yeah,
that's definitely shadows are huge.
Yeah.
From that aspect.
I was scrolling through TikTok, and the only thing I did hear on this whole Miami thing was this comedian talking about this incident, and he was just kind of making a joke that clearly people have never heard of the Miami Heat. So, it was funny, but that's the only thing I've heard on it. I didn't know there was anything going on down in Miami with it, but yeah, hearing that, I'd probably say it's people just don't understand spotlights and shadows.
Yeah, and they basically were like, it's an alien invasion. They're 20 feet tall.
Yeah.
Run for your lives. But I don't know if any of the people that were actually there are saying it, or if it's just someone used it as clickbait.
Yeah.
And then people just
There's a lot of that going around too.
So much. And especially right now with social media and stuff, because it is a good way to get a following and make some money, get views.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's something for me as somebody trying to become a content creator. I've been tempted to do clickbait type things because it definitely gets you views. So I mean, I can't see somebody not taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
Especially with there being a community full of people who are just so hard pressed in alien involvement in anything, really. Like Stonehenge, people believe aliens helped build that along with the pyramids. I personally don't believe that, just because I've seen what mankind can do. Women are involved in it because I
see. the pyramids, I'm kind of like, I'm not saying that there's alien intervention because there probably wasn't.
I
Uh,
personally don't believe so because I understand each sandstone block that are used in each
they were,
pyramid
yeah,
are
like,
heavy.
yeah, they're 2-3 tons,
Yeah,
maybe it was more than that even, and
but
there's like thousands of stones in each one, and they're perfectly aligned,
hmm
and it's like even today it'd be extremely hard to do something like that, but
you'd be
you,
amazed.
yeah, I mean back then that's all they had to do,
hmm
and there were slave labor, thousands of Egyptian slaves and such. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, I me personally, I don't think there was involvement, especially in any of like any monuments like Stonehenge or pyramids, just because I know what mankind can do. I'm in the construction field. I
Yeah,
and
yeah, and you're a really good person to talk to about that actually,
well, I'm not the best, but
because
I've
it's
got
like,
knowledge and I
yeah,
understand. Like I currently on the job sites I'm working on, it's an 8-story hospital,
okay,
and it's amazing just to see the process because I go into work and
it's like how the hell are
you're
we doing
staring
this, right?
at the ground and people dug out the foundation, poured it with concrete,
Yeah,
and then they just build it all up. It's all concrete, all 8 stories. It's amazing to see it.
really.
Yeah,
I would have never thought that.
it's amazing. Just how just people working together can get stuff done like that. Back in those times, yeah, they didn't have all these tools to help them get it
Right.
done, but they made do in some way or another. And if they needed to move a 3-4 ton slab of sandstone or whatever, they found a way to do it.
Sure.
So I
That's an
personally,
interesting take, and someone like you that works construction is probably someone that's more knowledgeable with something like that than like someone like me who's never I've never touched construction. I've never watched someone put a building up,
yeah,
and you've been around it your whole life. So
yeah.
it's
My
like you
my
have a
dad's
completely different perspective.
my dad's got 30 plus experience doing wood framing. Him and I are currently in the process of transitioning into steel framing and stuff, but he's done concrete and a bunch of other stuff. He's kind of like a jack of all trades, and just hearing all the stories he's been a part of, it's amazing to just look at a building and understand how people made it happen.
Sure. Side note, if you wanted to shout out any small businesses or anything at any point, feel free.
Okay.
Because I'm all about that. I always support local business. But yeah, I just figured I'd throw that in there quick.
Yeah, as of right now, I can't say I have any just because my dad and I are no longer on our own
Sure. Yeah.
company.
If
But
yeah.
if I ever come back on, yeah, that's something I'll keep in mind.
Okay.
But yeah, back to this David guy.
Yeah. Back. We went off track a little bit.
Just a
I mean,
little
not
bit.
really,
Well,
but
it was on track, but slightly veered. Uh, I was reading up on it. He claims, like, from what I've seen, secondhand knowledge that apparently went along with a fighter pilot.
yeah.
I believe in my notes I have his name written down as David something. David Frommer? No, that's a Navy commander. David
Yeah.
Frommer was a Navy commander, and then
Yeah. Another higher ranking.
yeah, and then Ryan Graves was a fighter pilot.
He's
But
another name that I've seen pop up a lot.
yeah, uh, he has apparently secondhand knowledge from Ryan Graves and David Frommer, who are obviously Navy commanders, pretty high up there.
Yeah.
But a fighter pilot, he would have seen something flying
Would have
around
been
in the
firsthand,
skies.
probably,
Yeah.
right?
So he was probably first to come onto contact with anything that might have been identified as a UFO, or however they're diagnosing
Sure.
that kind of stuff now. I think I've seen
And
something as a UAP now.
yeah, unidentified. I don't remember what exact. It's like unidentified aircraft something.
Yeah, it's.
I don't remember.
I-
It's a UFO in my mind. It always will be.
I'll stick with a UFO.
Just like Pluto will always be a planet in my mind because I learned that in third grade.
Yeah, I went to school learning it, so it's kind of.
It's like I know that it's not a planet. It's a dwarf planet.
Yeah.
Like dwarf planet still says planet, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my take. I probably look stupid saying that, but
no, I'll stick with calling it a UFO just because that's what a lot of people are pretty used to identifying them as.
Yeah, exactly.
But these guys apparently, along with David Grush, have been saying that there's been stuff going around as well. And I don't know how credible all this is because I just started doing research on it not that long ago. But
and it's like we weren't there.
Yeah, but no, the only people who are gonna know are the people who are there when it happened. And coming from a family who's pretty heavy military based, I know for a fact the government keeps certain aspects kept from public, especially if it comes down to like UFOs or something. So I wouldn't doubt that they're hiding stuff.
But do you think they're hiding little gray guys in spaceships?
Me personally, I don't think so. Hiding unidentified flying objects, yeah, definitely.
What do you think is the odds that it's just like another country with higher technology than we know about?
I'd say it's honestly probably a lot higher than you would think.
Yeah, because you never know. I don't live in China. I don't go to their military bases.
I say the odds of that are a lot higher than it being an alien.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
With that being said, do you believe not just in like little gray men that come from outer space, but like somewhere out there, do you think there's life in the universe other than Earth? Any form.
I'd be surprised if there wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a huge universe, right?
And it's not like our universe is the only universe. I'm sure there's plenty more. I mean, we don't even know the extent of our own planet. The ocean's only had 5% explored since I was in high school. And there might be more explored now, but that's still a really good chunk of our own planet that we haven't explored. And a lot of it deals with not being able to go down so far in the ocean and whatnot. But if we can't even explore most of our own planet, there's a lot more that we haven't explored in space. And I'm not a big space person, but that's just something you need to understand. They say they found running water on Mars or
I believe so.
Mercury, one of those two. I can't remember which one. But
it's like frozen or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're finding running water there. Who's to say that there's not life forms inside that water?
So, yeah. I mean, if you look on Earth, pretty much every climate has life of some sort.
Yeah. Even in Antarctica, they're finding frozen creatures inside it. Yeah, there's penguins, stuff like that.
Whatever else.
Life adapts to whatever environment they're in. I mean,
exactly, and that's what makes me think like there's no way we're the only planet with life. Even let's say it's bacteria or something, that's still life.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a blade of grass. That's still a blade of grass,
right?
That's just my take on it. There was something with Mars. I'm not sure about the credibility of this, but I've heard that they're finding a lot of xenon, I believe, and it's the same stuff that's made after like nuclear explosions. And there's like a lot of it in big craters and stuff on Mars. And they're like, oh, what if Mars was nuked? Maybe, I don't know. Kind of going on a...
I mean, it's possible.
You never know.
And it could just be a crazy coincidence that the stuff they're finding on Mars or whatever planet it is that's similar to stuff after a nuclear explosion is what's they're finding. It could just be a crazy coincidence that's what it is. I'm obviously not a chemist or a physicist or rocket scientist, but I mean, it's just something that could just be pure coincidence. It could just be something that's strictly found on Mars. Each planet is going to have different different chemicals and stuff like that on it. Different
Yeah.
biometric tables. I don't remember what that's called. It's been a while since I was in high school. I didn't pay too much attention in those classes, but
Yeah, now it's like, oh, you kind of wish you did, but
yeah. I mean, it's definitely interesting to think about. It's
yeah,
definitely a possibility.
I feel like it's something that kind of gets your brain thinking. Like,
Yeah.
you never know what's really out there.
Yeah, as I've gotten older, I've kind of thought more about stuff that I didn't really think about going through high
Yeah.
school or even just as a kid in general.
Something I've noticed as an adult, and I'm sure that you felt the same way, is like my mind is just getting more open and open because you see different situations, different people, different. I mean, there's so much shit that you thought you knew that you had no idea about.
Yeah, that's another thing is you you don't get taught everything in school that you would have liked, and then once you start experiencing life after school, you're kind of just getting smacked with all these things that you weren't used to hearing about or you just never heard about in general. Uh, so I mean, it's definitely stuff that kind of just shocks you when you see it or hear it, and then you kind of try and you go into rabbit holes and you just kind of like this guy. He could have just went straight down a rabbit hole and just kept finding information that could have been misled. But like you said, he was an officer in the United States Air Force for 14
specifically
years.
for high intel. Too.
Yeah,
he had all the clearance.
Yeah,
so it's like,
so I'm sure he's definitely seen some stuff, but I don't know.
It's really a touchy subject until we know all the facts for sure.
And that's another thing. I don't like making judgments on people until I get as much facts as I possibly can. But
right, especially when it's potentially could change like your outlook on life.
Yeah.
Like if you found out there's aliens surveilling our planet or something, it's like it just kind of changes the way you look at the world and the universe. Because right now it's like, oh, you look outside and there's like dragonflies. It's not aliens.
Yeah, well, this time of year you're looking outside and you're just freezing your butt off. But
the Great Blizzard of 2024, right?
But yeah, it's definitely been interesting kind of looking up on this dude. I didn't take a whole lot of notes on him, but just reading from what I've seen, I could see where he would get some of his ideas or just wanting to kind of do that whistleblower complaint, whatever you want to call it. But
and my thing that makes it like a little bit more credible yet is that he has to go through a whole court process just to completely whistleblow, because there's a lot of stuff that he's not even saying yet because he has to go through that process first. It's like, why put yourself through all that? I mean, other than the obvious fame and attention he's getting. But like that's a huge process. A lot of court, lawyers, fees. Like he's
paying a lot of money to go through all this. And another thing is he could just be getting backed up by all the people who do truly believe aliens are there. There's so many people who are just so crazed over it. There's Comic-Con like stuff for people who believe in aliens, and if that's something you're into, go for it. I think it's a cool thing. For
sure. It's
and
like it's
you get to
like
meet a bunch of people. Yeah.
It's like a good hobby. Like, they found this. Actually, something that's kind of relevant. Over the summer, I was in New Mexico with my brother. Grateful Living Cannabis Dispensary in Silver City, New Mexico. Figured I'd shout him out quick. He owns a dispensary down there. Beats anybody's prices, allegedly. I don't partake, but so I was down there visiting him, and on the way back up, I stopped in Roswell just because I was like, I gotta see it. It's like all the alien hype. I go and it's basically like, it's like, have you ever been to Gatlinburg?
No.
So like the whole town's like what about Wisconsin Dells?
No, I haven't. I've been.
It's basically like
Wisconsin.
The whole town is like a tourist attraction for aliens.
Oh, okay.
All kinds of shops, mazes. If you go in here, you'll have an alien encounter, and you go in, and it's like a little guy dressed in a suit.
Right.
So it's like there had to be something that a lot of people believed for all that to be there,
Hmm.
for the tourists. But
So I guess my question would be, what happened down in that part of New Mexico that, uh,
that triggered that.
yeah.
I don't know all the exact details, but I know there's like one of the biggest alien sightings of all time was in Roswell.
Hmm.
I don't really, to be honest with you, I haven't really looked into it. I just am like, oh, that's the alien place.
See, that's the only thing I've ever really knew about was like Nevada for Area 21, and a
Yeah.
lot of people want to be around there because
It's basically like that.
Yeah.
It's like Area 51, where it's like everyone believes it there.
Mhm.
Everyone's like, there were aliens here. That's basically Roswell's the same category, really. But I just didn't see the hype. I was down there. It was 110 degrees in the middle of the desert. Like, be a real good
I'm
place
sure
to
for-
hallucinate,
yeah.
I'm not discrediting anybody, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know.
I think your brother having the dispensary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think him having a dispensary down there is definitely a pretty profitable spot.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, me going down there, I personally probably wouldn't have seen the hype either. Just maybe not just because of me not having any kind of knowledge into the subjects or anything like that, or even any care to it. Really, it's just it's kind of like me and Ghost. I'm open.
Hold
No,
on.
I'm just saying, like, I'm open to it, but in order for me to want to like go and dive into any of it, I would rather have
like to do a deep dive.
Yeah,
I'd start YouTube videos.
I myself would have had to have seen something that I could not have explained as a person dressed up.
Pause on that because that's a subject we're going to touch on later.
Well, that was just for the whole alien thing
Yeah.
too. Like, if it's me diving into like aliens, I can't see a guy in a suit doing it for me to go full blown into
Exactly. It has to be like, I saw some shit.
Yeah, like something I personally couldn't explain.
Yeah.
That's
personally. That's fair. I mean,
that's just kind of like my whole thing is if I'm going to truly believe in it, then I would personally rather see something that just blew me away to the point where I couldn't explain it.
Okay. So we're going to go on to our next subject because I know naturally we're about to dive into ghosts, and I want to talk about that later after we talk about some other things because I want to finish with that.
Right. No.
So our next subject is Donald Trump. What do you think?
So,
and you don't have to say if you support him or not.
No, in my opinion, I'm independent. I'm more neutral.
Yeah, and that's how I feel too.
I personally lean more towards people who seem like they have not just my views on the country or the world in mind, but the better for our country first and then the world. And personally, I think Trump over Biden or anybody else who he might be running against, I like I said, I'm more neutral.
Right.
But I don't know who is all running. I know Trump and Biden are running. Those are the two most
those are going to be the heavy hitters for sure, whether we like it or not.
Yeah. So, me personally, I prefer Trump over it, and anything I might say may come off as biased. And I'm not trying to be. It's just stuff that I've seen over time and stuff I've heard from my father, who does actually follow this stuff pretty normally.
Yeah, the older generation, they watch the news.
Yeah,
they get all the press conferences on TV.
So and it could possibly just be rubbing off on me, but I personally I think he's better for the country just because during his term, he didn't start any wars. Even with Putin, Putin and him seemed like he was really good friends, like
Yeah.
best friends almost. He went,
Which right now kind of seems sus.
yeah,
because Putin's not a great guy.
no. And there could be things that Putin's doing that are just misunderstood, but right now I think a
Yeah.
lot of people have a lot of hate due to Ukraine.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's personally another thing that I think Biden's doing wrong is I understand where he was wanting to support Ukraine. I was all for it until he started sending like $9 trillion.
Yeah, the
That
billions
was
of
too
dollars,
much.
billions of weapons.
Like a one-time thing to show like, hey, we support you. We hope you can do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And then if they need support, as in like food, whatever, I don't know. I don't know what crosses a line for Putin because he's threatened nuclear war.
Well,
I think multiple times because of our involvement.
My thought on that is I could kind of compare it to like if you go out in the city and you see some beggars and say you give them $50 and it's like, okay, you can give them $50, but you can't give them $50 when your own kids are starving. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Biden doesn't seem very America based. He seems more like a people pleaser for the rest of the world. So Ukraine, he wants to support it as much as possible so he can get all the support he feels necessary, either from different countries or just from his supporters.
Yeah.
But I think he made a mistake doing it too much with Ukraine.
Definitely.
And I'm not saying it was a bad idea, but I could see Trump doing the same thing. He could have supported Ukraine, but I don't think it would have went to the extent as what Biden did.
Yeah, to where we're basically fighting their war for
them. I think there was a post a while ago, sometime like mid 2023, where people were saying that our own stockpile of ammo was getting low. Well, if we get into a conflict, how are we supposed to fight that?
Yeah, exactly.
Because if we run
there's
out,
tension. There's tension with all the big powers in the world right now.
Russia and China are trying to gang up. China's trying to stay out as much as possible, but that's something that we've got to worry about. Russia and China are the two biggest problems that we got to worry about. And China's trying to take over Taiwan, or wants to. And nobody can act like they don't, because it's a pretty obvious thing. I think Taiwan's one of the largest distributors for semiconductors. And if China gets that, they kind of hold U.S. by the balls.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's something that we need to just take note of, and I think Biden lets that kind of go past his vision. But Trump, I mean, I personally just have more hopes for him winning because I think he genuinely has America more focused than what Biden does. Because Biden opened up our borders. Now there's there's a terrorist group backed up by the Iranians that are talking about coming into America and bombing places.
Yep.
And that's all because Biden opened up the borders, and I think that was a bad move. I think Trump wanting to close the borders and trying to get jobs back to the Americans is a good idea.
Yeah, and the thing about that is what a lot of people don't really realize is that what Trump was trying to do is he's not trying to just keep everyone out.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to get people to come in legally.
Yeah,
and I get that the process is probably really stupid.
Yeah,
but like it'd be the same process if we wanted to go to Mexico or Canada.
Yeah,
or wherever.
Even like Canada, my dad, and he got arrested trying to go to Canada.
Really?
Yeah, when he owned his own company, they were working up in North Dakota. No, New York. They were near. I think it might New York or North Dakota, one of the two. They were near the U.S.-Canada border. And that my dad and one of his wworkers who's Mexican, but he's fully legalized. He has been since he was born. Um, he just looked super Mexican, and at the time he had a beard that made him look really Arab. And I'm not trying to get too controversial into that topic, but
I'm assuming this was about 20 years ago.
no, it was probably about 10, 15.
Oh, still,
But
not long after
no,
9/11, where everyone was
it
being
was
crazy.
yeah, it was a pretty bad time. But they wanted to go see Niagara Falls, and they went over, and then they came back. Well, they got stopped by customs, and they just had a bad feeling about his worker, and they ended up tackling my dad's worker. My dad was sitting there taking pictures of him, laughing at him and everything, but they arrested him, told him he couldn't ever come back. But that's honestly a good thing, in my opinion. Like, having a strict border,
Yeah, definitely,
is a good thing for your country. It makes your country strong, and it shows people, like, well, we can't just walk across. It's going to be a lot harder than that. We've got to fight our way across if we truly want to get an invasion force over it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Trump has a good mindset, because he's trying to make the United States strong. He's not trying to let it be weak and vulnerable and open to sabotage attacks. That's a whole nother thing in war, is just espionage and sabotage. That's what helps win wars. Um, and obviously propaganda has a lot to do with it too. There's plenty of it going around now.
Definitely.
But that's something I think Trump has definitely been on the right mindset for his entirety of being the president and now running again. I think that's his whole campaign, is closing the borders up. And I personally agree with him, just because I think it would make America a lot stronger.
Sure. Another thing with Trump, have you heard about all the different investigations he's under right now?
I've heard of him being in some investigations. I just don't know what.
So basically, think about any accusation you can possibly get and slap it all on the opposing presidential candidate.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going on right now.
Yeah, I heard he was getting removed from the ballot in Maine and I believe Pennsylvania. Colorado, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I heard Colorado had put him back on the ballot. I just don't know about Maine. But yeah, I heard some of the accusations. I said,
you didn't do your taxes right in 1964.
Yeah, so they're trying to find any excuse they can to really try to get him off, or just
how do you feel about
not let him win? I don't like it. I think it's cheap.
It's like a cheap shot, low blow for no reason.
And to me, it's like cheating, or just like you said, a cheap low blow.
Whether you like him or not, like, you have to acknowledge that the timing just happens to be there.
Yeah, it's literally the year.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's just too coincidental that it's all happening right now.
Yeah.
Like, such a big push too.
Yeah, and it's like 36 charges or something.
Yeah.
It might be more now. I don't know.
I personally believe that it was a pretty cheap low blow.
Do you think that's a fair thing to do?
No, I personally think it shouldn't be allowed.
And I don't mean to say that from a biased standpoint.
No. Even for Biden,
like if they were doing that to him, I'd be like, why the fuck are they doing that?
Yeah, if they were gonna do it, they should have done it when they first announced that they were gonna run for presidency, back before they even became president. So that, I guess, is just my whole opinion on it. I think it was just a low blow. Even for both sides, they could really just, like, you can
fight fair. Both of them have literally 75 million people willing to vote for them.
Yeah. So that's to me, it's just a low blow. I don't agree with it for anybody's standpoint.
Yeah, and the way politics have gotten, it's so like under the belt.
Yeah,
it's hard to vote at all, you know.
Yeah, and that's a lot of why I try to stay as neutral as possible, because people just take stuff way too far out of proportion.
Yeah.
So and Biden, I can't say he's done a lot, and that's where it's going to sound biased. But he did recently bomb a terrorist group. He sent out several.
That's metal as fuck.
Yeah, I truly think that was a good decision by him, and
Yeah.
I'm glad he did it. That's one good thing that I know he's done, and that's about it. That's why I said it's going to seem biased, but that's my whole thing is even when Trump was in presidency, he had the lowest unemployment rate for 40 to 50 years.
Yeah.
So, and he's also given more money to black colleges and universities, and a lot of people say he's racist, but
and it's I think it's the most in history by a lot.
It is, honestly. He's the first president in a really long time. And a lot of people just kind of overlook it, or they just don't read in on it.
Yeah.
And I think they just really need to take a deeper dive. But Trump definitely does say things that he really shouldn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you're the president of the strongest country in the entire world, you got to kind of.
Yeah, he's definitely said things that I don't agree with.
He definitely puts his dick on the table. And he's just like, "What's up?" You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's kind of just out.
Which I like that aspect of it, but sometimes it's like, you should probably cool it a little bit. I don't know,
but that's kind of why I lean more towards him, just because he's more outspoken for America, not for other countries.
Like brutally honest.
Yeah. And that's another thing. He doesn't like to lie about what he's trying to campaign for. We all know he's trying to close down the borders.
Yeah, he said, "I'll be a dictator on day one."
Yeah.
But only day one. Which is a really, really, really strong power move in my opinion.
If you're going to get a lot of stuff done day one and then give the people their freedom back the following day, I think is something that is definitely worth noting.
And that's the thing. He's not trying to take away freedoms from anybody.
No.
Which I know you understand that. But he's trying to just be like, I'm going to go balls to the wall and do what the hell I said I'm going to do. Right then and there. There's going to be no waiting. You're not going to have to see if I'm going to do it in 3 years.
Right.
He's going to do it day one, which that's a pretty strong campaign.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Biden, as far as I know, hasn't done anything he said from what he said he was going to do when he became president.
Yeah, other than like, I don't know. Yeah. I know there's a few things that he made his promise on. Like, a good example is his vice president. He's like, I'm going to make my vice president a woman of color. And it's like, all right, I get it.
I understand that.
I get it. You want diversity. You want the extra support that you're going to get from that. And he probably thought like, my president as vice president was a man of color.
Mm-hmm.
And that went amazingly for me. So let's flip the roles. And I mean, it got him in there for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Something I wanted to ask you about with Joe Biden, what do you think his intentions are? Because I don't think that he's like an evil guy, and I don't think that he has bad intentions. I feel like he just has the wrong idea on a lot of things. And then like a lot of people that are advising him are like, you need to do it this way for this reason.
So,
and he's just like a senile old man eating ice cream. He's somebody's great grandpa.
That's where I was going to go is it's not a secret that Biden seems like he's kind of losing it mentally. I won't say he is, but it kind of seems like he kind of veers off in his speeches, everything like that. But as a person in power, even I would get coerced to go towards somebody else's opinion on a matter.
Definitely.
If they make it sound strong enough and viable enough.
Especially when it's a cabinet member. You know?
Yeah.
It's like the advisors for our country.
Yeah.
They're damn near in control.
Yeah. And that's the thing is he could easily be just getting, manipulated.
And it's not hard to do.
No. it's a stressful position. I guarantee it.
We're talking about some of the strongest minded people in the world.
And then you're running the country as it is. I understand it's stressful. Believe me, I've been in charge of jobs, and it's stressful there.
Just being in charge of like a small crew of 2 or 3 is like, holy crap.
I understand he's under a lot of stress, and that's why he has all those advisors. But me personally, he seems like he's just a puppet.
Yeah,
that's for somebody else. Too. And I'm not trying to sound shitty on it, but he just honestly,
you gotta give him the benefit of the doubt, but like you can't.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I'm saying. He just truly seems like he's a puppet for somebody else's plans. Yeah, and he's just the voice, as long as that voice lets him finish the sentence. So I don't know. He could have some evil intentions behind what he's doing. I personally don't. He's made some pretty poor decisions that have kind of led this country into where it's at now. Yeah. Obviously, like inflation, gas prices, stuff like that.
Hopefully it works out. Yeah. You know, no matter who's in charge, you want it to work out. Yeah. You want them to do well. Because if it doesn't, then you're screwed.
Yeah. We're taking in all of the pros and cons of their presidency. Yeah. And that's ultimately why we all want them to make good decisions. But yeah, I truly just believe he's somebody's puppet for their plans. And as long as he is the way he just seems like he's going to do what they want or say what they want and get it done. As long as the Supreme Court or anybody else who has the ability to stop him will let him do it. Because, right. I mean, that's ultimately how bills get passed. It has to go through several courts in order to pass. So, I mean, if he tries to get a bill passed, he can do it if they don't let him do it. But if they get all Democrats on the court, then obviously his bills will get passed. But
yeah, pretty much no matter what.
Yeah, so
they're also kind of puppets to whatever the Democratic Party is supporting at that time, and it's the same on the other side. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
It definitely does.
And I'm not saying there's Republicans who I guarantee agree to a lot of bills that are based from Democrats or Democrats agreeing to Republican bills.
But they got picked up by the other party, so their hands are kind of tied. Yeah. Which is like, when you pick representatives for your state or whatever representative you elected, it's because you want them to make the right choice. Yeah. It's not because you want them to make the choice that Republicans are making or Democrats are making. And I feel like that's a lot of the problem with the House and the Congress right now, is that they're just puppets to their party. They don't have any free will.
Yeah. Yeah, and the little free will that they do have just seems like they don't use it wisely.
Yeah, and we're talking about a lot of them have like law degrees from Harvard. Mm-hmm. They know what they're doing. Yeah. They know what they're doing. They know the effects of what they're doing. Yeah,
somebody from our state's not really going to fucking change the outlook on something if we got elected, which I don't know why we would have, but that's the thing. Like they've got degrees and they've got way more knowledge into all this stuff.
A lot of them are like, they were judges in circuit courts for 13 years.
Their parents probably were doing it before they were.
Yep. And that's another thing.
They just kind of grew up.
So these are extremely educated people in politics that are just going with the flow, basically. Yeah. Like, what's blue and red voting for today?
They're getting paid no matter what. So
a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So talking about Biden kind of ties into our next subject, because he's been making a lot of promises about free college. Mm-hmm. And he's been trying to make do on it. And what I really wanted to know is, how do you feel about it? Do you think that it should be a thing for the student loans to just get wiped out?
I personally think it would be cool to have free college and student debt relief, stuff like that. But free college isn't really free.
Right. Like, who's paying for it, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, everybody's paying for it. And
Your taxes
when
don't
I was
spike.
kind of researching on it, there was Germany has free college, Sweden has free college or free healthcare. They might not have free college, but Germany definitely does. They're one of the biggest countries that do it.
Mm-hmm.
But even while I was doing my research on it, it even says right there in the black and white print that their income or their income tax is highly taxed
Yeah.
to go towards free college. And the key word being highly.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah,
makes you
highly-
wonder how much are they really taking out for
Highly
free
taxed.
college?
Highly taxed from a government standpoint.
hmm
That has to be a really big number.
Yeah.
And I wish I had the number right now to reference, but I mean, anyone who's listening can feel free to look it up. I'm sure it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous here, and we don't have that. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a good idea. I could see why he would
theoretically,
want to
like say it was for a city,
do it.
I'd be like, fuck yeah.
Yeah,
We should
if
do that.
anybody wants to go to a free college,
or maybe
make it like Chicago.
Yeah,
They could do Chicago, free college there, but you're going to pay a lot more for taxes for that free college there.
Yeah.
And anybody from around the world could go to it if they truly want to. But that's the thing.
Do you think that if we got free college in America and all the student loans got wiped out, do you think we would still have the same standard of education in colleges?
I personally don't think so, no.
I don't think so either. Mostly on the fact that how are you going to pay the professors the $100K that they're making a year or more or less, whatever?
Yeah.
How are you going to pay them that much? How are you going to pay for all the supplies? And I know that it's already partially government funded, but there's a lot of stuff that college kids have to buy themselves. All their books, all their supplies, their computers, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I took welding in college for 2 years. I had to buy the books and the tools to go along with it.
There you go.
And then it was my dad being in the military. I got to go to the class for free just because the military paid for it, but I still had to buy the book. I still had to buy the little tool box that it came with too. So I mean, you're still paying out of pocket, but even for like what I had, you still had to pay. So it's not like it's exactly free.
You mind closing that door?
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's that, and yeah, I just don't see it working out. In a big having a brain fart right now.
From a financial standpoint, it's a cool concept. Because you're not
that's
paying
all
for
it is.
it.
It's a concept.
Yeah, but you're not paying for it, but you are paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what, you're still paying for college. It's just not.
Do you think a lot more people would go to college if it was free?
Probably. I could see a lot more people going.
There's the aspect of like, well, it's free for everyone, so everyone will go.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, like, if you can't afford college right now, there's a lot of programs, there's a lot of grants out there, FAFSA, whatever, where you can still go for free.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that aren't taking advantage of that. So it's
a lot of people might simply just not know about those programs.
That's true.
Because even I walked through colleges. I didn't know about half the programs they had.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
It's an overwhelming amount.
I mean, you're walking through colleges, you're looking at where you could possibly go, and you're just taking in so much information. You're not really paying attention to everything.
You got to be there for 4 years before you know where you're at, right?
And that's the thing. You're kind of going with the flow through it during those times. But I personally believe if colleges were free, a lot more people would go. But who's to say they wouldn't significantly tax you if everybody started going?
Yeah,
because they're going to have to make up somewhere.
And then it's like public school where you get a lot more delinquents.
Yeah.
A lot of more people taking advantage of the system. A lot more people trashing the school, trashing the classrooms, stealing stuff.
Yeah. And back to one of your earlier questions, thinking it was gonna raise or lower the that line of education, I personally think it would kind of lower it
Yeah,
if
I believe
everybody
so
went,
too.
just because.
And then it's like you get less one-on-one with
Yeah.
professors.
Yeah, because they've
And
got.
I don't know about everyone else, but me personally, one-on-one learning is the best way to learn.
I
Other than
had
just
way
doing-
more luck doing it like that, just because you could, if you needed to, you could ask questions instead of having to wait for the teacher or professor to get done helping 10 other students
Mhm.
before they got to you, and by that time they could have just forgot. So that's I guess that's just my whole outlook. I think it's a cool concept, but I think it's a bad one.
Yeah.
But for some people, like you said, there's already free programs out there. You just, like I said, you got to kind of learn about them.
Yeah.
So, and like grants, you can get grants too.
So I guess we'll move on to the next subject, which is AI, artificial intelligence. What are your thoughts? You think it's going to take over the world?
Growing up, I seen Terminator, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely a fear.
It's been a sci-fi thing forever.
It's
Ever
definitely
since the first computer was made, they probably
Oh yeah.
like, oh, our toasters are going to kill us. Like, yeah, if you drop them in the tub, with you, they will.
I mean, I played video games since I was a little kid on computers, and just seeing how far computers progress through technology over, like, you can get a brand new state of the art computer and you might pay 20 grand for it. Well, next year it might be outdated by 4 years.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Our technology is just, it's going up and up and up in standard so fast. And I'm sure there's a possibility that AI could take over. I personally would hope it wouldn't.
Right.
Um,
I think it's in the past century, I believe, we've had a bigger, like, innovative boom just in that time than the rest of time combined. I think that's really interesting.
Yes. It honestly is. It's amazing to see how far civilizations come.
So, like, 100 years of technology equates to the rest of time. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. My ancestry, Vikings,
like
they were
Norwegian.
Yeah. My dad's German, my mom's Scottish, Irish, and something else. But I know I've got a lot of Viking ancestry. Sure. That's why I know there's red in my beard and stuff. But
there's a lot of Vikings in the UK.
Yeah, but the Vikings, they were the best navigators during their time, and people can't, to this day, still don't understand how. But we've got technology where we can Google something and in 2 seconds have that knowledge right in front of us. But we still can't understand how Vikings used to navigate seas. Even at night, they were still navigating to where they needed to be across oceans. That's insane.
Yeah.
But now we've got technology to where we might have robots that could potentially take over work for humankind, from what Elon Musk is saying. He was big on GPT, whatever it is.
AI chatbot thing.
He's since backed out from what I've read, but he was really big on that. He said that it's a risk that AI takes over and that we should kind of keep an eye on that. But there's two different sides to AI, one being the fear, one being the curiosity or the excitement. And the excitement part being that AI could technically diagnose humans and take over a doctor's role. I personally would prefer to speak to a human.
Yeah.
I get irritated with those robocallers and stuff.
That's what I was about to bring up. You call a business and they're like, robot. And it's like, I want to speak to a person.
I always sit there and say, speak to an associate or speak to
And
I'll
they're
even
like,
say speak to a human sometimes.
they're
But
like, well, maybe we can better help you. It's like, no,
yeah,
you can't.
yeah, no,
Even if you can,
I
I
want to
don't want you
speak to
to.
a human no matter what, because that's just what I've been used to. But they're talking about how AI could diagnose humans, and I can understand that. I mean, you're giving them all of humankind's knowledge on medical treatments and everything, and
Right.
they all it's got to do is just kind of go through all that information. Within seconds they can give you that diagnosis. But from my eyes, I personally could see there being a lot of things happen where it's misdiagnosed or something like that.
Well,
The
there's so many conditions that
Yeah.
are like the same symptoms.
hmm And so that's the thing is even humans nowadays they misdiagnose people. I got misdiagnosed for having appendicitis when I was a little kid. I had my appendix taken out when I was born, the day I was born,
Really?
just because I had symptoms that showed similar to appendicitis. Who's to say that AI wouldn't have done that? Because they're not going to know that I had mine taken out the day I was born, because that's all on paper. It's not in a computer.
Yeah.
So they can misdiagnose people, especially if people had stuff from the day they were born written down on paper up until people decided to upload it to a computer.
Right. And
So
who's taking the time to enter in paper documents
yeah,
from
it,
1996?
yeah, it would take a long time. So I'm sure they're gonna try and make their job shorter by just leaving stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm I would say there's a definite fear of them taking over. Um, but I'm definitely curious to see where it could go too, because AI could take over jobs and potentially make it to where everybody just gets paid to just go to a gym or something.
It's kind of like the curiosity of picking a scab. You
Yeah,
know, it's like, is this going to relieve me
yeah.
or is it going to bleed?
So I mean, there's definitely more than one side to it. I think the website I was reading said there was three different sides. Um, and I can't remember what I wrote down, but there's a fear AI could be biased, especially when it comes to sensitive matters.
Well,
We'll
and
go
that
with
makes sense with all the crap out there
yeah.
right now.
There's so many things AI could be biased on. We'll just stick with Biden and Trump. AI could just be biased with Biden. It could be biased with Trump.
Sure.
And if they're making the shot calls, who's to say that it might make the wrong call? And everybody else is just going to be screwed because of that being biased.
That's interesting. And it kind of brings me into another question I wanted to ask. AI for president.
No,
Do you think it would work?
no.
Because there's so many different
I feel like
factors.
there'd be
They
World
can
War
calculate
III.
everything right away. And it's like there could be World War III, but it's like what if it did the calculations and that's what the world needs, and then there's more peace in the end.
But is there really more peace in the end if there's no humankind left?
Right. That's another good point.
But that's the thing.
And I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Right.
I'm
No, I
kind of afraid of
understand.
it too. I wouldn't want it.
Like I said, growing up watching Terminator and seeing the AI in that Sky Network or whatever it was in the movie just kind of took over and everything. So, but for president, I would personally prefer a human over AI any day of the week.
Yeah. I mean, people, no matter how bad they are, they can empathize with you.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, I'm also a person. I understand what this could do.
Yeah. And that's the thing. There's a lot more emotions that AI just don't have, and I feel like uh, it would make a decision to possibly start a war that doesn't really need to be started. Even during World War II, there was so many times, or not World. Yeah, it might have been World War II. There was so many times that Russia and America both almost started World War III.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right near the end. I think there was a Russian submarine that was a nuclear sub, and it was supposed.
Cold War.
It was it during Cold War?
Cold War.
Well, they were supposed to be based off America, and they were. We didn't know they were there for a while, unless we did. I don't know. History's kind of faded for me on it.
Yeah.
But they were given a transmission that got cut out, and the commander of that sub heard the transmission get cut